Yo, what's going on, boys? How you guys doing today? Welcome back to another YouTube video. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a brand new Prismatic Hunter that's all about spamming Ascension. Ascension got some pretty good changes with Heresy, and now you can interact better with some things that you didn't before, like a Hunt Dodge, as well as some of the other aspects that we have in the Prismatic kit. With today's build, we're going to be putting the spotlight on Ascension and essentially pushing it as far as I can go, pushing to its limits. We're getting Amplified, getting Radiant, Jolting, Bow Charging, making clones all at once just with Ascension. And the best part of the build is that we're going to be able to spam up to 3 Ascensions just back to back to back. So if you guys are looking for a fun build that's also very effective, then this is going to be the perfect one for you. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's build, and if you do, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel in case you guys aren't already for some more builds. And now let's get into it, and like always, let's start with our exotics since they're a big part of the build. Now for our exotic, we're going to be wearing the Radiant Dance Machines, and I know some of you guys probably know about this exotic, mostly from Crucible, you know, having to do with the last word, but these things are also amazing in PvE, and they're going to be great for what we're trying to do, which is just spam Ascension. That's because every time they get a final blow with your primary weapon, you get some dodge energy. So every kill gives you essentially like a third of your dodge back, and so 3 kills pretty much equals a full dodge. Most of the time we're not gonna need 3 though, since we're always having like energy constantly regenning, so most of the time it only takes like 2 kills to get a full dodge. So that's really useful. We can basically use spam our dodge a lot more often, but the really cool part is the second part of the exotic, which makes it so you can get additional dodge charges. So you can actually get it up to 3 dodge charges and actually use them back to back, and that's how we can pretty much get like the attack helicopter mode started on this build. But it also just means that we basically always have a dodge pretty much whenever we want it. As long as we're getting kills with our primary weapon, we're always going to have multiple Ascensions ready to go just whenever we want them. Now for your exotic weapon, I recommend that you go with the Graviton Lance, because this thing is just so good at just killing ats. One shot could get you like multiple kills, meaning that it can give you so much like ability energy thanks to the Radiant Dance Machines. And so I decided to go with the Graviton, but you don't really have to specifically go with this. This build pretty much works with any good exotic primary. It just so happens that, you know, the Graviton is very popular and it's also just really good at killing ats. Now for the other weapons you want to pair this up with, it doesn't really have to be anything specific, but if you want to take this into some endgame content, I would definitely recommend either a machine gun or a linear, so you can stun champions, and then Tanishas, because Tanishas is just OP this season. It basically deals with every single champion. These two would be fantastic choices. Now for the subclass, we are going to be on the Prismatic Hunter, and I recommend they go with the Silencer Squall, but the Shadow Shot or Silk Strike will also work for the supers. Now for your dodge, you want to be on the Acrobat Dodge. This is going to allow us to get Radiant every time that we use our Ascension. Since those changes, now all these dodges and their abilities work with Ascension, so this is going to give us a quick way of gaining Radiant for us and also for our teammates. So we're just constantly going to be making ourselves and our teammates Radiant over and over again. For the melee, the Withering Blade is going to be pretty good. This is going to let us slow and freeze targets, and in a place that has champions, you'll also be able to stun both Overloads and Unstoppables. And lastly for the grenade, I'm going to recommend the Grapple. Since this is all about using Ascension, we have to be pretty close to enemies to use it, so this gives us a very easy way to just get in the middle of enemies and start using our Ascension. And if we use our Grapple melee, we'll also unravel targets as well as make tangles, so that kind of adds a little bit extra damage to the build, even if it's not like the main focus of it. Now for our first aspect, of course, it's going to be Ascension. That's pretty much what the build is all about. It's going to jolt targets, it's going to give us an easy way of becoming amplified, getting some damage resistance, and on top of that, it's going to be doing all the other things that we're also adding on top of it. Like our next aspect, which is going to be the Threaded Spectre. Now Threaded Spectre was also changed, so now it works with Ascension, and essentially just puts a clone wherever you activate Ascension. So most of the time, it'll be like up in the sky, forcing enemies to look up to shoot the clone. And this is very effective against a lot of enemies, especially when we have multiple charges on our Ascension. We can essentially put a couple of these Threaded Spectres and just constantly have enemies looking up at the sky and not focusing on us. It's going to add a lot to the build by just a way of mitigating damage from us and our teammates, since everything is focusing the Spectre. And this pretty much pulls aggro from everything, ads, bosses, things that track. They all kind of focus the Spectre first, as long as you put it in a good spot. And it looks like just putting it up in the sky in the middle of like a bunch of ads seems to be a pretty good spot. You can also stand on it, like when it's up in the air, but I wouldn't really recommend it since a lot of ads are going to be shooting at it. So I recommend that you just kind of put the Spectre down and then you just go around somewhere else and start shooting the enemies. Now for the fragments, the first one's going to be the Facet of Purpose. Whenever we pick up an orbital power, we're going to gain either Bolt Charge, Restoration, Frost Armor, Woven Mail, or Overshields. Since the most popular, like PvE supers, tend to be like the Stasis, Void, or Strand, they're all going to give us something that gives us damage resistance, essentially improving our survivability with this build. After that, we're going to have another thing that's also going to be helping our survivability with the Facet of Protection. Whenever we're surrounded by combatants, we are more resistant to damage. It is 15% at base and 25% whenever we're in Transcendence. And this is going to be very useful since we're always going to be kind of like in the middle of a bunch of enemies. So this is always going to be proccing, essentially making us tankier and allowing us to take more damage. And this is also going to stack with the damage resistance we're already getting from like having Woven Mail, Frost Armor, from now Amplified. So in the end, we're actually going to end up having quite a bit of damage resistance, a lot more than you would expect. After that, we're going to have the Facet of Awakening. Whenever we rapidly defeat targets with light or darkness damage, we're going to make some elemental pickups. Most of the time though, it's going to be Void Breaches or Ionic Traces that seem to be like the thing that I made the most. Meaning that you're always going to be getting some class ability energy or some energy for your other abilities as well. Overall, just helping you spam some more abilities. After that, we're going to have the Facet of Solitude. This is going to give us a very easy way of applying Sever whenever we need it, especially against some of the bigger enemies like champions, bosses, mini bosses. This is really when you want the Sever. And we're going to be able to apply this just with our normal weapons by doing multiple precision hits. This is really good. I definitely recommend Facet of Solitude. It is just a fantastic debuff. Next, we're going to have the Facet of Sacrifice. This is just so we can get some more Darkness Transcendence energy. Since every time that we're amplified, which is pretty much going to be all the time, any kills that we get with our abilities will give us some bonus Transcendence energy, just so we can use our Transcendence a lot more often. And the final one is also a very similar one, is the Facet of Devotion. Defeating targets affected with Stasis or Strand debuffs will give us bonus Transcendence energy. And we have a couple of abilities that we're going to be able to use this with. Our Melee, our Grapple Melee, our Sever that we use from our weapons, and the Facet of Devotion. So we can just spam Transcendence a lot more than we usually do. Now when it comes to the mods, I would say the must-haves are going to be the Void mods, Void Floods, Malignant Harvest, and Volatile Marksman, so our Graviton Lance can really take advantage and get the most out of them. And also some of the arc ones like Dielectric and Flashover. Dielectric is actually going to be our main way of getting Bolt Charge. Every time that we defeat some arc debuff targets, we're going to get some Bolt Charge. And since we're going to be affecting a lot of things with Jolt, with our Ascension, this is just like the perfect way of just spamming the bunch of Bolt Charge, as well as proccing the Bolt Charge itself, so it does the big lightning. And our second mod, Flashover, is going to increase the damage those lightning strikes from Bolt Charge actually do, so we just get the most out of them. Now those are going to be the most important mods for the build, but if you decided to go with a machine gun also on this build, like I showed in the beginning, you could also go with Heavy Ordnance Regeneration, which is going to give you some damage resistance, as well as some regen for your grenade and your melee, whenever you do some damage with machine gun. Hold the Line is also really good, so you can get some reload speed, and whenever you get some final blows it heals you. And of course Overload Machine Gun, so you can actually deal with the Overload champions. And don't forget about Piercing Sidearms. I actually had to change it because I had a Sniper Rifle, but yeah, Piercing Sidearms is definitely something you want to have. And lastly, let's take a look at the mods that we have on the build. First of all, you want Void Siphon, so you can make some more with your weapon. Radiant Light, so whenever you cast your super, you give your teammates armor charge. And then Special Ammo Finder, so you can get some more special ammo. And if you value the heavy more than the special, go with the Heavy Ammo Finder. You can just switch these around. Now for the gauntlets, we want to have Boy Loader, as well as Impact Induction and Momentum Transfer, so we can get our abilities back faster, and also reload our main weapon faster. For the chest piece, we have just the regular Resiliences, nothing really special here, just Resiliences. For the boots, we want to go with Absolution, Invigoration, and Recuperation, so we can heal with orbs, as well as get some of our abilities back faster. And lastly, for our class item, the only really one that matters is going to be Utility Kickstart, so whenever we have some armor charge, we can get a portion of our dodge back whenever we use it. You also want to have Empower Finish and Proximity Ward, so you can get some armor charge whenever you do a finisher, and also so you can get a shield whenever you do a finisher. The reason that we have these two is because a lot of these other mods do not work with Ascension, besides like Utility Kickstart, so we just kind of kept this. And with that, it's actually going to be the end of the build, boys. With that, you pretty much know everything to go in there and just essentially start spamming Ascension to your heart's content. getting just constant radiant, constantly jolt enemies, get that constant damage resistance from the amplified, and also make a bunch of clones so things don't even shoot you while you have all that damage resistance. You're going to be getting so many things just for doing one ascension, and considering how fast you can actually get them out, including multiple at the same time, you're always going to be good. The only time that this build won't really perform well is when there's not really ads around and you're just fighting one big guy. Then you might struggle to, like, you know, start spamming dodges, but as long as there's a couple of ads, you're always going to be able to spam them. And the gameplay loop, very simple. You get kills with your primary weapon, and then you spam ascension, and that's really it. It doesn't really get any more simple than that, and that's why I love this build. It is just something that you can slap on, run, and have a pretty good time with. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's build. Like always, there'll be a dem link in the description as well as in the comments below if you guys want to give it a try. And if you guys do end up trying, then make sure you guys come back here and tell me where you guys started the build. Anyways, thank you for watching today. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.